Yehi Ratzon, Parashat Pikudei, ending of Sefer Shmot, first day of Rosh Chodesh Adar Sheni, Mishnichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. Yehi Ratzon, the limud shebel refuat kol hacholim, v'tocham Tanya bat Oda Margalit, Yosef Yair ben Aviva Chava, Harab Sivan ben Sima b'toch kol shar Cholei Yisrael. U'leilui nishmat, Eitan Eliezer ben Mordechai, Zecher Tzadik v'Kadosh Livracha. Before we start the parsha, just a midah that I learned from Ethan. So a lot of us really enjoy food. Coming up to Purim, we know that all the mitzvot are very much connected to physical and a lot of food. But one of the things that some of us aren't the greatest at is that health, and that knowing how to refrain ourselves and what to eat and what not to eat and when to eat. So one of the most beautiful things that Ethan always took care of me was really teaching me how being healthy with food, it meant that you recognize the food as a real present in your life and not just something that's sustaining you. So when we enter into Parshat Pikudei, there's one of the psukim that are obviously one of the most difficult psukim in the entire Torah. And to understand why it's so difficult, we have to realize that for 5 parashot, Truma, Tetzaveh, Kitisa at the beginning, Vayakal, Pikudei, we're preparing for one thing, which is Hashem to appear in the Mishkan. And you could imagine that every single Jewish person, donated everything they had, gave everything they had, all the effort that they could. They built and they toiled and they worked and they did. And the closing pasuk of Sefer Shmot, after all of that work, it says like this, V'lo yachol Moshe lavo el oel moed. They did it all. They made everything. They prepared everything. But the result didn't happen. V'lo yachol Moshe lavo el oel moed. He couldn't go in. And so we did every single thing, all the preparation, but the result wasn't there. And the end goal, or the end zone, just didn't happen. And Moshe couldn't accomplish the dream of entering the Mishkan at the end of Sefer Shmot. And so when we try to understand what might be the idea behind this pasuk, and why is this the ending of Sefer Shmot, I think if we look back into the Megillah, we can understand this on a different level. When we look in the Megillah, one of the most powerful sentences is Revach v'atzala ya'amod la'Yehudim mimakom acher. Mordechai turns to Esther and he says to her, you have the opportunity and the privilege to help the Jewish people. But I want you to understand that there's something greater and bigger than you, that if you do not participate, redemption will happen. Don't think that redemption won't happen. It will. It's just you won't be a part of it. And on a certain level, in Kabbalah, they explain that this sentence from Mordechai to Esther says that there's 2 ways to look at the world. One way of looking at the world is called Yosher, which means a line. That everything works, you do something right, you get a present, you do something wrong, you get a punishment. Everything works on a scale. And it's all if you do, then there's redemption, and if you don't, there's not redemption. And it's very much dependent on your actions and on logic. And that's called Yosher. And that's what Mordechai says to Esther. There is a level where you can participate and you can change and you can affect and you can influence. But at the same time, don't think that everything in the world is dependent on your logic and on your actions. There's something greater and bigger than you. Revach v'atzala ya'amod la'Yehudim mimakom acher. You can, but you will not define redemption. You could participate in redemption. You could assist the redemption, but you are not the definition of redemption. And I think that when we look at the end of Sefer Shmot, maybe one of the biggest messages Hashem was teaching us was that we have to realize that the world works on 2 levels. There's one level where we do what we're supposed to do, and things work the way they're supposed to work. Things are logical. Things they make sense. But then we have to understand, V'lo yachol Moshe lavo el oel moed. There are things that are beyond our knowledge, that are bigger than us, that are greater than us. If you look in Masechet Sanhedrin in Daf Tzadichet Amud Bet, it says that the Mashiach had come be'itah chishena. Be'itah means that there's a regular time that it's supposed to come. And a chishena means that there's another way. That means that there's 2 ways that Mashiach could come. We can bring Mashiach, or Mashiach will come. But you don't define Mashiach. You don't define redemption. It's not that if you don't do something, redemption won't happen. Because in the world, there's logic and there's emotion. In the world, there's things that make sense, and then there's Hashem. Because the things that Hashem can do are bigger than logic. And I think entering into the end of Sefer Shmot, which is the introduction into Adar, it's very interesting, the whole idea of V'nafuch. Because when you look at Mordechai from the tribe of Yosef, they were a very logical tribe. Everything worked on the actions. If Yosef did something wrong, he got thrown into a pit. And when he did something right, he became a redeemer. It was all about him and his actions and his leadership. And Mordechai continues that and leads the way of doing actions and actions and actions and actions. But maybe we balance it on Purim with the idea of V'nafuch, with the idea ad lo yada, to understand that yes, there's logic, but don't define life by logic. Use your logic. Understand logic. Try to bring redemption, but understand that there's another level. And the other level is V'lo yachol Moshe lavo el ol moed. It doesn't make any logical sense. They did it all right. They built everything perfect. But the last message in the Mishkan that Hashem teaches Moshe and to Am Yisrael is that if you want to have a relationship with happiness, don't only limit yourself to logic and to what you understand. Let things be greater and bigger than just your own personal logic. Shabbat Shalom.